Welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
And we're up and going. It's happening. We are live. You can take it away, Andrew, if you want to. Can you
all right.
hear me?
Thanks.
Yeah,
Sorry.
great.
I was
Good.
expecting
No,
like a hand signal or something.
I usually do. I usually throw up the hand
Dang
signal,
it.
so.
That's all right. Welcome to the dungeon. I'm Andrew Orvidal.
And I'm Harlan Kelly. This is our stream podcast. You know, you might hear it in many different ways it's called The Dungeon, where we talk about all things tabletop role-playing, running the game of sorts. So and we have a guest every week, and this is Andrew Levy. He's a comedian, photographer, streamer, and dungeon master. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
I think he's specifically not a comedian, right?
A photographer of comedians.
Oh, I
Right,
said
right.
I said, yep, I
He's
read
naturally funny.
Assistant to the regional manager.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. You never make a joke ever at all. That's good.
Yeah,
Threw us
no,
off
I
because he
am
was
serious.
funny when we were chatting before. The
Yeah,
show
but that
started,
was the extent. That's all I had in the tank. So
Oh,
okay.
now we're live. So great. Now I'm dry.
He's naturally funny, as gross as that is.
Yeah, I
like,
woke
he
up like
doesn't
this.
even feel the needs to like do it on stage. Ugh.
Yeah.
Is it natural? But is it natural? Is the question. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
really fun.
thanks for
Yeah.
doing the show.
I'm a big fan of your guys' stuff. Better Than Heroes. It's super well produced and really dramatic. And the one time, I love watching live plays, but there was one session you guys had where I was truly on the edge of my seat. Will Andrew die? Then it was a full count, and I didn't even know the full context because I haven't been able to tune in every week. But you guys did a great job setting it up. Loved it.
Thank you.
It's great
Thank
stuff.
you. Yeah,
Well,
that
very
was
digestible
tense,
stuff. Amazing.
Tense.
Thank
It
you.
was.
But
Thanks so much.
I'm also a fan of your stream. You have a great stream that's very like pleasant to watch, and I feel like I learn about photography just watching your
Thank
process.
you. Yeah, I actually found an amazing Twitch community of photographers, and that is like, Twitch has been nuts. I've been streaming for like a month and a half, 2 months now, and I've met so many sick people. Like, it's incredible. Like, photographers from around the world. Like, there's like the brand ambassador for Mercedes-Benz in Saudi Arabia, which is like a nuts photography job. That's like the holy grail of photography.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, no, it's cool stuff. So, I mean, Twitch has just been great.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of see behind the screen, to use a D&D metaphor for photography. Sorry, but
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
I love
So
These screens in photography too, right?
Yeah. Oh, we got them.
Oh, yeah,
We got
yes.
'em. But so you can go
Bounce it.
behind them. You know.
well, cool. So a question we ask very often, pretty much every time. I think we're consistent.
Love it.
I want to go back through. I want to make sure I'm right. But is tell us
Right now.
about how you got into playing tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah, so I have always been into like RPGs, and since I was a kid, and I did a lot of Warhammer when I was a kid, and I really dug that. But the thing is, when I say did a lot of Warhammer, I specifically didn't play a lot because there was nobody to play with.
It sounds like a drug.
Yeah,
I mean, Warhammer. That's what I've heard
railing,
about
just
Warhammer.
railing mini sprues, just
Did a lot of Warhammer.
yeah. Listen, you close the window and you get that plastic glue going, you're doing Warhammer, baby. It's in. Yeah, and I only knew of D&D as like a thing that we like. Me and my like 10-year-old friends would like bastardize like on like a school bus.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, pick a number from 1 to 10, and it's like, okay, 8. It's like, okay, that's kind of close enough. You hit the thing, the goblin thing, and it was just like to kill the time. But like we'd only get like 30 minutes in, and then we'd be at school. So it was always like, oh, like I want to know how it really happens. And then I found like a basic edition book at a yard sale when I was like 16, and I just like remember reading those like adventures like myself, and like be like, oh my god, this is like a full. I kind of read it like a choose your own adventure book, and I had a great time with it. And then in college, it was just like, okay, there are people. The internet is like a thing. We can like learn how to do things and do it. So since then.
Yeah, and
I was a little on and off until I was like, in LA and met a bunch of people.
But you started with
One of your
D&D.
players, Jordan. Yeah, I started with D&D, and like so that is really the only tabletop role-playing game I've played like thoroughly, and I played multiple editions of Basic Edition and 5th Edition, and a little bit of 3.5, but felt a bit clunky. But we can talk about that.
Someone in chat asked if it was the red boxed set.
Yes, it was the red box set.
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's
I remember
awesome.
that, and I remember not really understanding what exactly it was like at the time, because like it was kind of faded and there's a lot going on. But then I kind of read it as a choose your own adventure. I'm like, then why are there these like rolling things? I didn't even know you had to like add dice into it at all. It was a whole. There were like pieces missing. It was like in Bedknobs and Broomsticks when they have like half the book, you know?
Oh yeah.
That's so deep cut. Sorry, everybody.
No, I mean like. It's been a recurring theme here, that how often people when they're kids don't have the full thing in their head, obviously, because who of us do now, you know, and then felt the freedom to just like go for it and do things in different ways inside of that. And I think that's so cool. I want to like capture that energy still now.
I think that's like the whimsy
people.
of D&D and why it's like feels so elastic, because like you don't need that many details to get off and running.
Yeah.
Like you could like play a game bare bones, is literally just guess a number 1 to 10. We didn't have any dice, we didn't have a flat surface to play on. We're sitting like back to back on a school bus.
Totally.
Like, you know, and we were like getting the whimsy of D&D was happening. Like, you know, even if we weren't actually doing it, the spirit of it was going on, which is, yeah,
it's so good. I tell everyone who ever talks to me about DMing for the first time or things like that, I always say like just start playing. Like you don't need to know all the rules before you start playing. You're never gonna know all the rules.
And a DM can take a lot of the complicated stuff out. You know, like they can be like, they can dumb it down. Not really dumb, quote unquote, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it can just
we've
survive.
got a group of new players. I'm shepherding you. You know.
Yeah, and it can just survive being like beat up a little bit. You know, like you can miss the rules a bit, and as long as everyone kind of like feels on the same page, then you know it's whatever. Just go for it. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's like a big thing. You got to know your party if you're a DM. You got to know who you're playing with, because like at the end of the day, it's all about everybody having fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you don't, it shouldn't become like a contest about trying to get like them onto your kind of story, like, or, you know, or trying to like put a square peg in a round hole, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know in my game, there are some players that like really need to know the mechanics of what's happening so they can like not manipulate in like a sinister way, but like, so they can like use them to their advantage and like, you know, try and like get like those combat skills going on. And there are other players that like really love the role playing and like couldn't care less about rolling dice. Like, and you got to try and find a way to make that fun for everybody. And there's some games where it's like, you know, that 2 players probably won't mesh well in the same game. Not like they'll be at each other's throats, but they'll be looking for different things.
Yeah.
Like
speaking
of
that,
everyone's looking for treasure when someone wants story, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, you got to know your friends basically. That's
speaking of players hating each other, you Dungeon Master for Better Than Heroes cast member Jordan Dahl. He never watches this, so you can tell us your true opinion.
Wait, he didn't he bit you earlier? Didn't he cheer?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, good. He's making sure you know that he's there. He's being suspiciously active.
He's watching, yeah.
It's
he
like
wants to hear his he's hoping for DM secrets for his game.
Yeah, in fact, he paid me a lot of money to ask you how your campaign ends. So if you could answer that just for the show, you know, that'd be great.
Will he find the golden mushroom? We don't know.
Yeah.
That is the ever question. It's a MacGuffin.
No, but that's, I mean, it's a fun, you stream D&D too, right? You all
So
play
I don't personally stream it, but I think Jordan streams. So I have 2 players that will stream the game, and so I am totally fine with that. I also don't want to oversaturate my own stream with like too much streaming.
Sure.
So I'll always host them. And I kind of like being kind of like the behind the scenes. I generally don't put my cam on when I'm DMing. I kind of, you know, because it helps me relax a little bit. Like I know that I'm not going to like catch I don't need to be like on stream mode.
Yeah.
I could be, and I can quickly look. And so like while they're talking about something, I could be like, oh my God, I need to quickly build a new map. Like, you know, they have like completely derailed everything, but I'm like, yes. Now take a moment and talk amongst yourselves, like, you know, and see, do you truly like help this Kuatoa in the road? Like, who is just literally a roadblock for me to like build the next map?
Yeah.
And then later, the whole wing of the campaign, I didn't know was going to exist, but.
Yeah, I mean that's
seeing my face when I'm doing a character is the worst. I can't do it.
Yeah, I know. When I do like the crouchy troll thing, I'll do it for myself. But if I know there's a cam on me, I'm like, ugh.
I
Like,
know.
you know, it's just hands.
Yeah, somebody pointed that out the other day in our Discord, the Better Than Heroes fan Discord, about how Jordan does a moon boy face when he's about to say something, and I was in character voice, and I was thinking about that, about how much I rely on that of like in order to do voices as like going into like a physicality, and I was thinking about that, and I did a new character last week, and without I like did it without even thinking about it because I just could see this dude in my head, and the voice kind of like came out of doing that. So that's like I have that. Yeah,
You have to have it.
I can
Yeah,
tell
I mean,
by Harlan's mouth position who he's about to be. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty dialed in now, and I'm like, all right, it's Goliath, and it's up here on the side, or it's
Well, that's
there's
great.
like different mouths for different characters.
I mean, that's just like one awesome like little quirk about playing with the same people for a while and kind of getting in a rhythm together. Like that, once you get that, and it's like really singing along. Like that's that's pay dirt. That's tops.
yeah, it gets easier and easier. Yeah. So what about do you feel like you have any tricks that you like have learned after DMing that you find yourself either giving to other people as like, oh, I had this moment where I didn't know this, and I figured this out, and like, here you go, now you should try this, or things that
Once
like,
I learned that enemies can run away, they don't like need to stay and just murder themselves suicide by party. Once that happens, then basically the players will choose who their own villain will be. Like it's like you can kind of listen to who they're angry about or who they're like, oh man, like, or like scared of, and then you kind of lean into that. Like I like a very sandboxy game, like where I will kind of like put points on a map and I'll use Incarnate to make these amazing maps, which I highly recommend if anybody. That's a tip.
Oh,
Incarnate is my jam. I don't know if this is a mature stream, but I was going to say my infant jam because I
you
love
can do it. You can swear.
Yeah, you can do
it's
it.
my fucking jam. I love Incarnate. I pay for the pro version, which is like $5 a year or something. I don't know. But it's like the map making is insane. You could do like city maps, world maps, and just giving someone a visual, like, and then what piques your interest, and kind of just like picking up on that, and then kind of narrowing your story. That was a big turnaround for me once I figured that out.
Yeah. Wait. So just to go back here for a second.
Yeah, please. I'm going to tons of places.
No, I mean, first of all, I totally agree that if you find anything that works for you, like any kind of like system of making more things, just do it forever. Whenever I try and read tips, I'm always like, some stuff I'm just like forcing myself to do, and then I'll just find one thing and be like, oh, all of a sudden I have 10 adventures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always having, so one thing I find myself leaning on is they'll, if they like eliminate someone too quickly and maliciously, like they'll find like a humanizing note on them or something, like, and I'll just like really just like jam them right in the gut. Like, you know, like
I love it. The picture
in one of my
of the
first
kid,
sessions, they killed a goblin who was just like, I decided to just put a random goblin alone, even though they would completely cream this goblin alone. I just had this goblin was wandering around a dungeon just like with like a pack and like, you know, like a treasure hunting kind of situation. And they're like, oh, he's like a pirate goblin or something. And so they kill him mercilessly, and it's like pretty quick and no chance to talk or anything. And it turned out he was like raising money. He was basically finding magical items for the goblin orphanage. Like, like basically all these goblins, like these goblins who were wiped out in wars and their children. And he was part of this order that would go out, find these magical items and like raise money to keep it going. And so then they ended up taking on that quest. And so then they became like, you know, and also from that, I quickly had to name that goblin. And that became my goblin naming scheme forever is now different Nabisco brands. So like Frito, Oreo, Cheeto, like, you know, like those are my goblins in my worlds.
That's good. Yeah, I love that. Just consistency across the board.
Oh yeah, because they
Trisket.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's such good reflexive, like, you know, you're kind of playing around with the player's expectations.
Exactly.
And just making them approach every encounter they have with just doing a little bit more character work of whatever, you know, whether it's like we
I want them to
situation.
kind of stop and ask a question, be like, okay, like this isn't just like a collect 5 goblin teeth thing. It's like, okay, what is going on? You know?
Yeah.
Like, and that once they get that, like basically the Witcher 3 kind of quest where it's like not everything is as it seems. Like you will
Nice.
find something. There's some twist, some question.
I love that. In that game they were so good at it. And you start to feel like there's always going to be a twist, so you'd start behaving in this way of like, no,
And
no,
then when
no.
there isn't
You're
one, you're
gonna-
like, that's
yeah.
the twist.
Oops, I just killed that innocent person.
Yeah, and then I also make sure to have their actions reflect in the world somehow. So like if they have like committed an atrocity, or if they like if there's a huge battle, like they'll find like a little memorial when they like swing by again or something.
Nice.
Like something like that, or they'll find like a little like kind of like cult of people who like pray to the people they killed, like who because they're now like sainted or idolized now, and they've kind of created a new set of enemies. Basically, I like kind of like Hydra-ing enemies, like where it's like like you kill, the more heads you kill, like the kind of more it compounds until you kind of figure out what's going on and you figure out the right head to kill. Like I like leaving like big conspiracies like that they may never even touch, but they'll see certain points of. Like for instance, in our game, there's this like challenge that knights do, and they're like this kingdom that where they will do this challenge. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, and they are like forbidden to speak of it ever. And if a lot of them don't make it back, some of them do. When they do, they're like, it's like they're like silent to the grave kind of thing of it. But it's like a very venerable thing. And so the most like powerful knights and lords in the kingdom have done it. However, turns out that what happens at this like mysterious kind of like mist in the swamps kind of thing they go into is that the knights get killed and taken over by doppelgangers. So all of the like most powerful lords in the kingdom are doppelgangers. And so they in the party is the only people that know this. And it's like, and so whenever they talk shit about the like this like religious kind of like rite, everyone's like, fuck you, like how dare you say that, blah, 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 blah. And so like they're like trapped in that knowledge themselves, and so they're constantly questioning like, who is this lord who's greeting us so nicely, like
That's
and,
that's
like,
so
stuff like
good.
that, making them constantly second guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that too. Of like, it's. I was just talking to somebody about who's new to DMing about this, so it's. I just am excited that you brought this up about the tough balance between like creating a world that feels big and doesn't feel like you're just putting whatever in front of the players, but at the same time allowing the players to change the world and like engage with the world. And I think like your example of having a village just like put graves for the people, like having people care that like the cult that you squashed is gone, or whatever thing it is such a good tip. I love that.
Jordan actually plays a necromancer. Not necromancer really, but like he plays like a spore druid, so he's like raising like spore like kind of like like guys.
The druid necromancer.
And that is
build,
considered like in my world, I'm like, if you do that, that's considered disgusting and like horrible. But so when he does it, he still kind of gets like a little taken aback when someone's like, what have you done? Like, oh my god, my cousin is now your spore buddy, like and then the party kind of has to run, and they've like torched another like bridge in a village, like and they are kind of realizing like, man, we gotta play it like a little cooler, like what we do. And so in battles that could be seen, they like are kind of keeping things a little closer to the chest now. And then if someone does discover it, that becomes like another thing they have to do, like they have to take care of a loose end.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that adds its own, and also that helps you as a DM, like you have only a few points planned, and then you can kind of follow where those points lead, like, and see what they do. And the natural thing that would happen is like, okay, well, someone would probably send out like a hunting party to come get you, and then that'll be an encounter later.
Yeah.
Like, you will come across like a bizarro you party,
like
who are like coming after you, and you could probably dispatch them easily, but it is a consequence, and it becomes like a big chunk. And depending on how they react to that, then you move on and do another thing. So I don't really plan too minutely too far in advance. Like I have big picture stuff that's like that's moving forward. It's like, you hit the unpause button on like world events, and then you see what happens, and then you let the world reflect in the game. But
yeah, I mean that's such a good. That's such a good. We've talked a bunch on here about prep and like the difference between like improv and preparing things, and I think that is a really really good middle ground of sorts to, have these things planned, but when things happen, then next time have. Start planning off of these other things that happen. If you if you defeat the hag, then like what was the hag guarding? Or like if you beat up this mean knight, like who is court is he a part of? And have those things.
Exactly.
It's like the what's Andrew? What's your quote? well, isn't the consequences of my own actions.
It's not my quote.
Yeah,
it's
but
my favorite tweet by somebody else. Yeah.
Your like favorite line. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's good.
Yes.
It's just good DMing because it makes the
It
party
comes
feel
up
like
in D&D a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
Oh,
the party
man.
feel like they have agency, but also is kind of
Totally.
like it's not
And
punishing, but
there's-
it's just like a response.
And if you leave things like vague enough, but with a few specifics, like then you can go back, not necessarily go back and change anything, but you can like, you can go back and like those things will be explained by stuff the party is uncovering. So, and if they kind of like put a piece together, you should be able to be flexible enough to kind of like, if it seems like a rational leap for them to make, like know that they don't have all the information that you just innately have about your world.
Yeah.
So like you kind of lean into it and be like, okay, cool. Cause that is something that you don't just dismiss it. Like they're probably not going to find your specific exact conspiracy, but like in our last live campaign before, COVID hit, and we were playing in person, we'd been playing for 2 years. And the entire time I've been leaving, these like, kind of hints at this, like these like mystical items called void gems. Like there are like 4 of them in the world. And when they're put together, they can do crazy things. And when they're apart, they're still, mystical, but like, just been kind of leaving those like those clues and clues and clues. They're never really immediately in their presence though. But I knew that eventually I would be able to find a use for those. And like, that would like, and like, if like there needed to be like a big like situation or encounter or something, like I could reward them with a void gem, or it could be a big plot point.
Yeah.
And so basically, long story short, I had them, they kind of like went back into like this like time rift, like at one point, like where there's like this fissure. And it turned out that like, so they went back and they found this like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they were in the exact same spot. And they ended up creating the void gems themselves. So it turned out that was the twist. And then when their minds blew, like they were like, "Oh my God, it was us the whole time!
Boy.
Like he had this in mind the whole time."
Time travel.
And not
You're
only
a
were they looking
brave
for the
man.
void gems, they actually created them themselves. So they went back in time, and then the void gems pushed them back into their world and brought it with them. So it was like all of a sudden they're like, "We have it!" Like, and yeah, that was like one of like, it felt like I had been creating it the whole time, but really I was like, this is a piece, and I'll use it. I don't know how, but one day I will. And then it just like came together, and I've been leaving those crumbs long enough, and then I just like gave them the final piece that like let them connect it. It was like,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Being-
I recently ran a one shot that involved time travel, and like halfway through, when it was still kind of a mystery, the player's like, I hope this isn't time travel. Like they were just like shitting on time travel, and I'm like, well, I guess we'll just finish up this one shot.
And you go, the question is, when isn't it time travel?
That's the worst. That's the worst feeling when they're guessing the mystery and they're like, it better not be this.
Yeah, I have, there's one player in my group who is very astute at that shit. And sometimes he'll be like, I will be so mad. And I'm like,
yep.
No.
I'll be so mad this guy can see
questions.
through my mystical darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, enough creatures with blind sense. Cross those off. Yep.
Yeah. We have great questions in the chat. One of them we could get to right now because I wanted to back up because you made a great point, Andrew, in like letting the players decide who their like favorite enemy is. Like they can kind of decide who the big bad is instead of you forcing it on them. Like, no, this is the true threat, because they sometimes you engineer one and they're like, we just don't care about that. Who we really hate is this innkeeper who cheated us and then ran off, and we don't know where he is. That is our new big bad. And I think having that flexibility and letting the players do that is great, because you get more of their emotional reaction to it, instead of you just like setting up this like narrative big bad who they're like, fine, yeah, we get it, this is clearly like the boss or whatever. But yeah, those emotional enemies are great. But that kind of ties into this question that comes from none other than Jordan Dahl. He asked, how do you guys deal with unruly stories or tying up disparate story threads, which is kind of what this is. If you leave it open to them to like, hey, what do you want to follow up, you could end up with these story threads, because if they don't care about some of these enemy opportunities, then you just have this like side quest storyline that they're just not pursuing.
Yeah, and so honestly, I think the more of those that are laid by the wayside, the better, because that means that your world is big and stuff is happening in it, and you can. And I'm always, I never let them be like, are you sure? Like, if they like are steering away from something, I'm like, it doesn't catch their
Right.
interest, you know?
Totally.
And
one
they
thing-
will create their own kind of like, they'll fill in their own like details and stuff, like in their own like excitement about something if they're drawn to it.
And nothing is worse than like feeling like the party doesn't want to be doing what you're doing. Like
Exactly.
it just feels bad as a DM.
There's some
it feels
ways
bad for
that
the
you
players.
can create that. You can create a narrative need for that, like where it's like they're like, oh
Yeah.
my god, like we have to do this, like, but like, you know, because they want something at the end, but like we're in like a shitty situation now.
Right.
But like, not, you never want them to be uninterested.
Right. There's a difference between the characters not wanting to do things and the players just being like that.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
I love having my players fight things underwater. Like, you know, like having like that's a fun thing. Like
Yeah.
I love having them be in like in darkness underwater. That's like scary as shit.
Yeah.
Like, you
That's
know,
right.
and then like
It's always,
even
always
anything like
terrifying.
Oh.
any tiny little rat creature that can swim is scary. You
Yeah.
know? Like if you have two Kuatoa with nets, like they can take down a player character, like, you know, in armor.
This is a great
drag 'em
idea. I
down.
can't wait to put you guys underwater in the darkness now. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
so good. And you put on some spooky music, done. It's like, you know, that's it. It's because they
And-
can't see anything in real life either. You're like you are more immersed than, no pun intended. You're more immersed than ever. I waited until you drank too. Triple threat. Yeah. So like you are never more connected with your character than when you have the exact same sensory information as your character does. So it's like
Totally.
if you are in pitch blackness and underwater, like you can see just as much as your character can, and you are
Totally.
just as scared. So
Yeah, this is kind of a tangent, but we recently
Please.
played this
What are we
role playing
doing?
game called 10 Candles, where you play in the dark and it's just lit by 10 candles. And the players kept asking me, how dark is it? How much can I see? And I was like, it's this dark. It's like exactly where we are right now. And then they would kind of look around and they'd be like, shit, it's really dark. Like
dark.
it's terrifying out here. But yeah, I think that helped a ton with that. One thing I wanted to say real quick with these side quests, one thing that I try to do is I have like an internal clock for those side quests, and something will happen or change with them, or NPCs will resolve them, which helps the world feel real and helps it not feel video gamey. Like in a video game,
Totally.
you can be like, I'm tackling all these side quests later after I do the
but shall we play some Gwent? Like, you know,
yeah, exactly. And then
we
they're
are in hell, but
always
careful
there.
again.
Totally. So, but I think that kind of keeps the players on their toes of like, this will go away. This will change. This person that needs your help, they might not be there anymore. They might be, dead or whatever. So I think that can help.
Oh yeah, I fully agree. I mean, so I let them abandon side quests, but like if they come back, like basically there is a mind flayer kind of uprising that's happening, like in the north, and that's like not even the main plot. Like that's just like a thing that's happening, like and actually the party kind of initiated it. They like unlocked a blood temple, classic, so they like started that kind of thread, and then they're like, let's keep moving on, but that thread is still happening, like
Right.
the north is fucked, like, but they're kind of like, let's go south, like,
Yeah.
and so now they're like kind of moving themselves like to like another area, but by the time they come back, like, Jordan, cover your ears, it's gonna be rough.
And they're not the only forces in the world either. There's like other
I
people
know,
who can do
exactly.
things.
And
Yeah.
that's my biggest overall reminder to myself is like my guiding kind of like sense is I can't let the party, even though they're getting to be pretty high level, I can't let them think that they are the only important powerful force.
Yeah.
Like there have to be things that are more powerful than them. So I will often have something that isn't directly trying to kill them, but they're in their way. Like, and just like come on and like 10th level spell, just like swat them out of the way and be like, bye. And then just like keep moving. Like,
I too love that
don't
move.
even have the time to kill you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Or I'll give them a legendary resistance, like an NPC, and so they're like, I'm going to charm them, and they're just like,
they're like,
"You
nope.
can't- nope.
Because I try and keep all my campaigns in the same world as well. So like the wiki I'm building like will apply to everything. So like you're basically every campaign is like creating history in like the same
nice.
universe. So like in my world I have like a bunch of dragons who are like hidden in like their tribes, but will send like people into like pilgrimages as humans, like into like the mortal world to like kind of like learn about like the mortal realm and everything. Like so like
Nice.
young dragons like will go in there, and they're like basically they just go in there and just fuck with humans. And
Nice.
like so they'll come across like a copper dragon who's like like give me all of your tails, so like or I will accidentally kill you. And like so that becomes like a skill challenge where they have to like like quickly try and entertain the dragon. That's like a good chance. That's another tip. If you can make players explain things to each other or me, that means that they get it and they engage with it, and they'll kind of make connections as I say it out loud. So if I like separate the party, which I try and do a lot actually, even if it's not for combat, for like some role playing stuff, I make them like recap to each other, and then they make connections they wouldn't have made before, and sometimes they make connections I didn't make, and I'm like, ooh, wait, that does work. That should be a conspiracy. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I love
so that
making
make
the
them
players
explain
do the
things to each
recap.
other. So
Yeah.
in that skill challenge, anyone could take this as well. I just made them tell this dragon the stories of their adventures, and like only the best ones would save them. And so like they were like, okay, wait, what about the time that when we beat all 3 ogres at the same time, like with like musical instruments? Like, what if we did that? Like, you know,
That's
and I would tell
awesome.
that one.
I
That
love it.
rules. That's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, this is great. We do have good questions in the chat. Let's do the roll table real quick, and we can go a little long and do some of these
Yeah.
chat
Sweet.
questions.
Let's do roll table and lightning round, because there's a couple ones that I feel like we could knock out. Let's do it.
Yeah. So just roll that d20. We'll see what
Okay.
question
By the way, I got a
pops up.
copper D20 here. And the more you
Ooh.
use it, the more green it turns because of the oils in your hands. Very cool stuff.
Oh,
Nice.
changing
Nice.
colors.
You got a 13. Wait, do I get bonuses? Do I
13.
get proficiency?
You
or
get
just-
no. You're a
No.
human. Just plus 0.
We should
plus
start.
1.
We should start a thing where over the course of the show we determine which attribute they've earned a bonus in, like charisma, like
Exactly.
okay,
Yeah,
they're
make
very
a charisma check.
charismatic,
Yeah, chat
And then,
should
like,
have
if
to.
you've been
very-
sweating the whole time, -5.
very intelligent. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 13.
13. Okay, this one maybe you sort of answered it at the top of the show, but have you ever run any games other than Dungeons and Dragons?
I have not run any other Dungeons and Dragons, but I really want to do Saga, the Star Wars role-playing game.
Oh,
So I've been like, so I have like the PDF of that, and I'm like very excited. I really want to run a game where like there are a bunch of Imperial defectors like that, like have to like, you know, try and stop at like the list like Jedi from getting killed. Like that's like something I've always wanted to do. I love
Nice.
Star Wars, even though I haven't seen the last one. We don't need to go into this. But
no,
And
I
I'm-
understand. I understand.
and I'm
But
happy
it's
leaving
fun.
it that
It's
way.
fun to play. It's fun to. We were just kind of talking about it like this. It's fun to engage in something that already exists and then build it into a role playing game, because then you get to live inside of that world, and that's awesome.
Exactly.
And it's just
Like my
like
friends played like an Avatar: The Last Airbender game, and I'm like, that sounds awesome. I've always wanted to be an Earthbender, you know, like.
Totally. I'm actually working on one of those right now.
yeah.
Ooh.
Gotta hop the Discord. They've been talking about it so much. It's great. Cool.
Cool. So here's the question:
Yeah.
what do you, Andrew and Harlan, feel are the most underrated race or class? I'll just keep it at that question. There's more to the question, but we'll keep it there. Underrated race or class.
Rangers are underrated. That's my. I'm strong.
Even
I
the
have strong
revised,
defense.
even the
What about
revised
UA?
ranger.
No, I mean like I love them all. I like the
Do
Rangers.
you like the OG Ranger too?
Yeah, I mean I get that they're underpowered, but they're cool. Like
Yeah.
it's good
Also,
flavor.
here's the thing: you can mess with the balance yourself.
Yeah.
Like the rules are
Yeah.
guidelines. The rules are guidelines.
Yeah.
You can like you can give them some. You can kind of like lean some magical items their way. Like like if like there is going to be one magical item in this session, make it a magic bow.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Yeah,
And
totally.
like there are ways to balance it. I think I whatever keeps the story moving and keeps it exciting, like I'm always down with. So I love Rangers. Class wise, I don't know, because I don't really dive into like the meta of the classes and
Mhm.
whatnot. I'm like very much like a story and like kind of momentum driven DM. That's
Mhm.
not to say I don't know the rules, but like it's. I would say the classes I see the least that I would like to see more would be Paladin. I don't see that at all, and I think Paladins are just like Oathbreaker Paladins are so dope. Like I think like people who like have rebuffed the light are like my jam. Like,
Yeah.
So like in Warhammer 40k, I'm like building a Soul Drinkers army who are like the renegades, but still loyal to the Emperor, even though their leader is half Chaos Spider. So sick. But that's another stream. But yeah,
yeah.
so I love that. I love evil things that are for good.
Yeah.
That's my jam.
Yeah.
And even a paladin that's being RP'd as like a pain in the ass evangelist is pretty fun
Mhm.
as well. Like,
Which is who's that? That's Sir. That's the drunk guy in Game of Thrones, the one who keeps reviving Sir Barrack.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's his
yeah.
name? I forget his name. But that's him. He's an Oathbreaker
Yeah.
Paladin, totally. Like he's like
Nice.
reviving, like he's casting Uther spells on this guy, and like but he's like just like a drunkard who's like, I can only do it because I could do it. Who knows?
Yeah. I love a character
The
with a mission
guy-
statement. I love a character who's like, this is I have extremes about this or that, and it's like and if I'm out, I'm out, kind of thing. Because those are just fun to play too. Because then you can, when something goes against you, your oath or whatever, you can just be like, cool, I'm gonna make a bad decision, it's fun.
Yeah, updated Ranger. I do think. You think updated Ranger is overrated? I think you said overpowered. Interesting. Okay,
No, definitely underrated. I love Rangers. I think they are cool flavor wise, and their underpoweredness is not as underpowered. I understand the original build is underpowered, but just shoot in the back. Being able to hit, consistently is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that the Ranger has the fewest interesting subclasses. They tried to make them interesting, but the Hunter one, I think, in my opinion, is so clearly the best and it's the most boring, but it's like, if you want to reliably hit and do the very best damage, then just go with the Hunter Colossus Slayer, and you'll be adding that 6 for Hunter's Mark and 8 for the Colossus Slayer every time you hit. That's bananas. That's crazy damage, and no other subclass that in the Rangers have can do that. So it's kind of frustrating. So it's like, do you want more creative flavor and like less damage, or do you just want to like be the archer that can like nail that damage? I wish that they maybe like tweaked some of the more creative subclasses to be closer to that, I guess.
Well, I think you as the DM also, in their quote unquote boring classes, and you as the DM you can add that flavor. Like, yes, they come with less flavor, but like, you can make their arrows, like if like they get at a certain level, I can't pull a Ranger stat in my head, but if at a certain level they get like multi-attack or something, you can make that like, the multi-attack, like the way it plays out is that like if you shoot someone, like you hit them, and then vines the wood will turn into vines and like start clawing at them, and that will be the second attack. And even if it's the same stats, like you can like make it seem really cool, like
totally.
And that's like a style of DMing, like where some people are more narrative about it. I really like kind of talking about the actual effects of their hits, like and stuff. Like, so even a miss will like go into the wall and like blast a column or something, like, just so they don't feel like, I'm literally just like throwing spitwads here, like something.
Yeah, one of my favorite little pieces of information that I like didn't even click in my brain until someone said this to me was that whenever you cast spells, it can kind of look like whatever you want. Right? Although it is, magic missiles, like your magic missiles can be anything, or like, your fireball can kind of be any sort of explosion. Like you can make
be like
your
Carmine
magic
the Bowler
yours.
from Mystery Men,
Yeah.
Like, you got your daddy's skull on a bowling ball and you're throwing it everywhere.
Oh, what a reference! I love that
deep
movie.
cut.
Yeah.
I've got deep cuts. I got deep cuts. I reference quick, and I reference hard
movie
too, even though I know nobody's gonna get it. I'm just like commit.
Reference quick and hard. That's another DM tip. Just do it.
Quick
Let's
and
do
hard,
one last question. Let's sneak it in here from Jason Wardell, who was our guest last week.
Ooh.
Any classic modules or settings that inspire your world building?
I forget the name. There's the one basic edition, not the one basic edition game I played. In fact, actually, it was the first session I did of basic edition. It was, I think, Against the Cult of the Reptile guy.
Oh yeah, I know that.
And in like the first session, because I was used to playing 5e, and then I played basic edition, which is much more bloody and brutal, and you can I'd never really died in 5e before, but like my first session, like la 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 la, ooh, a ring, should I try it on? I probably should, right? And I tried on, and because it had these cool fangs, and then like the DM was like, yeah, this ring gives you like +1 to your attack, and I'm like, ooh, but it's like, but you need to survive a Constitution check because it's biting you right now. And then I died immediately, and I was like, my mind was blown. And that was when I realized I needed to make my games have a little more bite, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Everyone should go look up the art for the City of Sigil. That's my influence.
For which one?
The City of Sigil. It's from 2E Planescape. It's awesome. It's just a really cool city. It's a good, like, you can do anything with D&D kind of world.
I love those. I love modules that aren't like adventures themselves, but are like a plug-in. Like you pick it up and just put it into your spot. Like there are a lot of really cool taverns out there. You could look up PDFs of just like amazing taverns that have things to do that like have like like water globs floating in the air and a mermaid is inside them, like, and weird stuff, and like random things you wouldn't have thought of, and just it's fodder.
Yeah.
I love
Plug it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks so much for doing the show, man.
Yeah.
And,
Of course.
sorry we went a little long.
Oh my
but
god,
that was
no!
great. Great
I'm always
chat.
happy to talk D&D.
I know. That's the problem with
yeah.
every guest. It's just like we all have a lot of stuff to say about all this stuff, and it's great. That's me being very articulate.
And I mean, here's a little flex. So I shoot comedy full time, but I did get the chance to take some portraits in my studio of Sam Riegel, which was just like, if you can see it on my Instagram. I got him. So I was like, throw this giant D&D dice, like this polyhedral, and I have him like look like a '90s magician because he had this amazing purple like velvet jacket.
Sam
and
wearing something crazy?
Time he did it.
No way.
What was that?
I said Sam wearing something crazy.
I told him bring it. Bring everything you got. Bring everything wild. And he did. He didn't disappoint. So I had him do one where he throws it in the air and we were going to catch it with the flash. The first time he did it, it was a natural 20. So I'm like, that's the only one we're doing. That was it.
Yep, the dice have spoken.
Yep, that's it. Can't do any more.
That's cool.
But yeah.
Well,
awesome. But if you guys did want to check me out on Instagram, I'm at Just Off the Six, like Just Off the Six train, and also the same on Twitch. I stream photo editing and some gaming.
Yeah, I have it. I will drop your handles in the chat right now. So
love it.
Go follow. Go hang out.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm actually about to play with Jordan in 45 minutes, so that's gonna be pretty fun.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, please give him a biting ring that makes him do a Constitution saving throw.
Bring this
Way
ring
ahead
back.
of you, Jordan. Close your eyes.
The one hitter biting ring. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Yeah, thanks so much for ringing, and thanks everybody in chat for the questions. We love it. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Jordan for tossing out subs like he just got paid, just running down the street with those subs. We love it.
Yeah,
right.
If you're one of the people who are new to subbing to our channel, make sure you hop in our Discord and come hang out with all of us. I dropped it in the chat a little bit before, but I'll do it again. And if you don't know, Andrew and I on Mondays have a live stream at 7 o'clock Pacific time. It's called Better Than Heroes. We play a Spelljammer Influence 5e campaign every Monday right here on our Twitch, which is Better Than Heroes. So, yeah. Someday somebody's gonna be like, oh man, hell yeah, I'm gonna go check that out. This is a good D&D.
I know that would be a weird. That would be a weird reverse way for them to find it.
If it's you, tell us. Let's hang out. Let's talk about it. Let's be proud of yourself. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well,
see you next week.
See you next week, and don't forget.
Tip your DM.
Tip your DM.
Tip your DM. Jordan, you got to start tipping Andrew.
Tip him. Do it. All right. Bye, y'all.
Tip him.
Tip her DM.